Welcome to Papillion Unscripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to hear from people who truly help make Papillion feel like home. Joining us now, one of the busiest men in Sarpy County, Papillion, wherever you want to put him, Officer Phil Tackett joining us, Papillion Police Department. They call you OT. Can I call you OT?
Yes, you can.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Michael.
You have a lot of different jobs, but I want to start with being the DARE officer because I've always found it to be intriguing. I know both my kids went through it through Omaha. They love it. Tell me how you ended up in DARE.
Well, how I ended up in DARE, we had so many schools a few years ago, right during the pandemic, and so they needed a second officer. And I guess I was the likely fit for that position. Tony Foster did it for many, many years, and I sort of helped him, kind of rode on his coattail a lot. And then when they needed a second person, I applied, and just made sense that I fall into that position. So I really enjoy it.
Because you'd worked in the schools before, right?
Right. I'd worked in the school since 2001, 2002. Started at Papillion Middle School, and then I helped open up Liberty Middle School too. So.
One of the harder things to do is to get kids to understand that police officers are their friends, that they're people they can go to. Can you kind of talk to us how you make that happen? How do you help those generations that are coming up understand that police are their friends?
Well, it's really not as hard as you may think. You know, when you're a police officer and you're in the school setting, they just kind of naturally respect you for the most part. So my biggest thing was just to find a connection with the kid, whether it be a sports activity, a theater activity, or something that we kind of have in common, or I can show some interest in, and then they can show some interest in me. So I really enjoyed that, and that's the way I really kind of made connections with a lot of kids. And I got involved in a lot of clubs too. Everything from Fellowship of Christian Athletes to a chess club to other things that they were doing. So I tried to make myself available. Intramurals too, show up there.
I think the first time I met you, we were talking about Mayor's Youth Council,
Right.
and you heading that up. How did that end up happening? How did you end up being the head of that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I won't say that I'm the head of that. I'm kind of the facilitator, I guess. You know, many, many years ago, probably 2004, I think Chris Myers came to us, and the mayor had this idea about forming this Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. And so it was very small at the time, probably no more than 10 or 12 kids. But they didn't have any real connections inside the school to promote it or get kids to apply for it. So they came to me. And so I started putting the word out, and we got some interest in it, and kids started applying. And Chris Myers asked me if I would help facilitate that. And so I did, along with Tony Foster at the time. You know, Tony Foster has since left, and so I kind of now facilitate the whole thing. You know, we have 2 monthly meetings. We do a lot of different events. We just had a work meeting this past Monday night, and we're sort of planning some certain things, some events that we have that stand alone as far as the youth council goes. And so I really enjoy working with kids. And right now we have probably a membership of around 46, 47, maybe even 48 kids. We have a very active core of about maybe 12 to 20, but then we have a lot of other kids on the council, but they can't always come because of school sports and school activities and things like that.
Yeah, honestly, most of the events that happen, they're facilitated, at least volunteers are members of the youth council, right? We just had the Easter extravaganza. Obviously, Papillion Days, they're a big part of that. They're part of pretty much everything that goes on in Papillion.
Absolutely, and they enjoy doing that. They have a good time doing it. You know, we have several standalone events now where we're just not partners or just not just assisting. We just did the Hispanic Heritage Month down at First Street Plaza.
Right.
We had our Black History event over at the Landing. So they're really getting involved and doing a lot of things as far as standalone events where we put everything together and we host it and we follow through with it, and it's for us, and it's a good connection with the community.
Yeah, chatting with a few of them, you could see they could be the future politicians of this country because they're like getting involved in this a little bit, and it's almost like an internship in a way to see what it's like on the mayor's side or the city council side.
Right, and you know, every quarter we go to city council and we try to give a quarterly report of everything that we've done over the past 3 months. And we have a very good leadership council right now. You know, we have a vice president, a president, and a secretary. We have an assistant administrator, and they have really taken the reins as far as going and getting these things done and presenting themselves as future leaders.
As future
in
leader,
Papillion.
yeah. You also are part of the Sarpy County diversion program, teach a couple classes there.
Right.
Tell us about the men's youth program, or that class initially that you teach.
Okay, well, right now, this month I'm doing the young men's group. Juvenile offenders, for whatever reasons, they've been cited with a crime, and so they've opted into the diversion program. If they complete the diversion program, it's off their record. And so we're hoping that by doing this class this month, we kind of divert them away from some of the bad decisions that they've made. You know, I don't consider them bad kids. They just made some poor choices. So I've been doing that, gosh, probably, I don't know, 10 years or longer. So I really enjoy it. We have a good discussion. They're pretty honest for the most part. And hopefully it will help them in the long run.
Yeah, so if you had Yelp reviews, which for this, there's a lot of kids that look at this and say it kind of saved them a little bit.
Really?
What do you think about that?
You know, yeah. I mean, I've made friends with a lot of the kids, and you know, some of them going on to college, some of them going into the military, and they keep in touch. With me, I know I just got a text from a kid yesterday, JT, and he's made some more bad decisions, not showing up for his appointments, and he tested positive for a drug test. And so he texts me, he says, Officer Tackett, I have to go back to court. Can you put in a good word for me? I'm like, well, you know, we talked about the consequences of our actions, JT. Right. So, you know, I said, well, you can get a hold of me, but, you know, if you want me to talk to your judge or anything, I don't think I'd probably be the best person. But you know, he needs to learn. You can't
save them all.
Right, I can't.
Yeah, let's talk about the class action class. Is another thing that you do?
Yeah, class action. That's how I got started in diversion, and the young men's group followed. Class action is where the kids, on the opposite month that I do young men's group, we have class action. And it's a class of where juvenile offenders, not as many, but it can be male or female, we go in and we try a civil case, trying to learn about our social responsibility. You know, as you get older, the stakes get a little bit greater as far as our decisions that we make. So we basically investigate and formulate a case, and we argue it to a jury of their peers. And it is a civil case, not criminal. It's civil, where they have to ask for damages. And they represent the person that is suing, and of course I represent the person that they are suing. Okay? So it's a good argument back and forth, and then the other kids, the jurors, get to decide, you know, who they feel is responsible in favor of. So
you could be also raising the next generation of attorneys as well.
Well, I know my police brothers and sisters won't like that, but yes, I guess you could. But yeah, so it's a good opportunity for them to kind of understand, you know, if I take these actions, these things could happen in the long run. So.
Are you still doing the summer program, the Police Academy for you?
Yes, we just actually closed that down. It is probably one of our most popular juvenile programs that we have. You know, in the school year we have DARE, and that's the premier program that we have for juveniles. And so in the summertime we put on Police Academy for Kids. And myself and Adam Bamer, Officer Adam Bamer, we just closed that because it is so popular. It filled up within, I think, 8 days. We do 4 camps over the summer. It's going to be at the police department. It's a 3-day program each session. You know, we take them to certain field trips. We play team games, but most importantly, we connect with them by showing them law enforcement demonstrations, give them a tour of the police department. They meet a lot of other officers. They'll meet their future SROs, school resource officers, at the high schools that they're going to go to, and middle schools. So it's a good opportunity for us to connect with the kids, and the kids connect with us.
Awesome. And you were raised in Virginia, is that right?
Right. I was raised in just outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, tobacco country. Imagine that. So yeah, and then I went into the military.
Air Force.
Air Force, absolutely. After the Air Force, I was stationed out here at Offutt. I got out and did a few.
How old were you then? What around age?
It was probably about mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So looking to start a career.
Yeah. So I went back to college, Bellevue University, got my bachelor's degree there. Met my wife, got married, had 3 kids. We live in Bellevue. It's just been I don't know. I've really fallen in love with the Midwest,
Yeah.
And more particularly, I've fallen in love with Papillion.
Yeah.
I just love this city.
Why police work? Why was that what you chose to do?
It kind of just fell into my lap, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was volunteering down at the YMCA, doing kids sports, soccer is my passion, but I was doing t-ball too. And Dan Hoynes, the police chief at the time,
Wait a minute, he was the police chief too?
Yes,
He did
yeah,
everything.
he did. He did.
Wow, I didn't realize he did that too.
Yes,
Okay.
he was the police chief at the time, moved on to city administrator.
Yeah.
But he saw me volunteering, and he knew that they had this COPS program, this community-oriented policing, and they had a COPS grant for an SRO at the middle school. So he approached my wife and said, would your husband be interested in becoming a police officer?
Oh, wow.
And she looked at him, she goes, I don't think so. He goes, well, just have him call me. And, you know, I was in my 30s at that time. I didn't think, I don't think they want me. But
Right.
so I called him, and he says, well, Phil, just, you know, jump through all the hoops and come and apply, and we'll make a decision. And then you can kind of fill it out, too. So I was working at the courthouse at the time, so I did that. Applied, and next thing you know, I'm a police officer in Papillion. And I got, you know, after working the road for a while, I got assigned down at Papillion Junior High at the time, and it's been a good ride ever since.
23 years later.
23 years later.
Still doing it. With all the stuff you do, I was looking at the list of hobbies.
Yeah.
First of all, you said you love soccer. Now you really love pickleball, right? I mean, you moved on from the soccer.
I do. I know.
You're obsessed a little bit?
I am obsessed, and I'm sure the landing probably doesn't like to hear that. But yes, I love pickleball.
Yeah.
I go down there, you know, as often as I can and really enjoy it. I do some rock climbing, kayaking out here in the Walnut Creek.
They got you whitewater rafting,
Right.
horseback riding, kayaking. You love Premier Leagues. You're up Sunday mornings watching soccer.
Watching
Football.
Chelsea.
Oh, that is your one. That's your team. That's your
my
club.
team. Yeah, we're number 11, unfortunately. But yes.
And Ravens fan from being back there in
Yeah.
Virginia as well. Like you mentioned, married, 3 children. How's that going? How are your kids doing?
Oh, it's going good. You know, they're about as successful as they are right now, I guess. You know, I have one. My youngest son just got back from National Guard training.
Oh, cool.
He's still in that. I'm very proud of him. He's working construction. My middle daughter works at the landing, Mackenzie, and you'll see her down there. She works under Steve at the landing. And then my oldest daughter, Alyssa, she works for First National Bank of Omaha.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Give me something about Papillion or Sarpy County that you really like. That's something that maybe doesn't get enough attention. Either it's an event or a place to go or something to do that you want to highlight.
I tell you what, I just love the historical aspect of Papillion. You know, I grew up in Virginia where there's a lot of history.
Oh, yeah.
But out here, you know, it's just sort of small community aspect. And I love the history that we have here in Papillion. I just want to make Papillion just even a better little city. You know, we have a little city with a big town feel, so I really like that.
And you mentioned him earlier, but you guys are kind of tied at the hip. Adam Bamer couldn't be here for this interview. He definitely wanted to be, but definitely guys work together, getting a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, I had to plug him, or not. He put something on bad on my desk or something. I don't know. Yes, I love Adam Bamer. He's a young kid. You know, he's my other DARE officer, and he's just a breath of fresh air. Really, I really enjoy working with him.
Phil, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for
Michael.
taking the time. I really
you.
appreciate it. Join us again when we take the time to interview another person that truly helps make Papillion feel like home.